It's time once again for the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser, joined by Ken Ashfeld from the city of Maple Grove, the man we always go to for answers in the public works and engineering area. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for being here. Heidi Nelson, city ministry, not able to be with us today, so Ken has got some great information. We've got the council meeting to recap, a little bit over an hour long. We've got some development news, and when Ken's here, we always talk transportation and get a little picture of what's happening in town. Let's start with development, again, for people that maybe haven't listened to us lately or haven't seen things going on. What's the latest in news around town, things people should know about?
Dave, we've been working on some of these developments for quite some time. In the case of the markets of Rush Creek, out by the County Road 10 and 101,
right.
County Road 10 being Bass Lake Road, intersection, that project has been in the works for almost 10 years now, actually.
Right.
Stalled during the recessionary period and then change in land ownership, and is just now coming through for approval. In fact, council approved it Monday night at their council meeting in a concept stage.
Okay.
And the concept stage has taken just one piece of the markets at Rush Creek, that being in the southeast quadrant of the intersection. Or at least a good sure that south of the creek is some residential.
Okay.
The major player in the commercial development would be the Hy-Vee grocery store. They came in with a proposal for the grocery store, which is about 96,000 square feet, with expansion out to about 108,000 square feet, and then also a convenience store and coffee shop in one of the outer lots, outlots.
Sure.
And then that leaves, on a preliminary basis, about 8 or 9 outlots that would be future development.
Okay.
And as I said, that's been in the works for a long time. A lot of community support for the project. Over the years, we have received a lot of calls from residents in that area looking for this type of convenience store or convenience shopping in that area. It's a bit of pent-up demand, and I think there was at least 100 emails sent to the city council from residents in that area supporting the project.
All right,
so
yeah.
that you don't see that all.
A lot of people interested in the grocery in that area and some of the others. So give us a bigger picture again. So the main area we're talking about of what the council looked at, and we'll talk about that meeting in just a second, is the southeast corner of that area where the Hy-Vee and a couple of these others will go.
Correct.
What about the other corners? What do we see a little bit longer term down the road for those?
The other 3 corners, as was in the original PUD, have got various projected uses.
Okay.
But at this particular time, there is nothing specific. The general guess would be that there'd be some higher density residential out there, some additional commercial development, and perhaps office space. And there's also was some talk of some medical office out in that area. Office medical seems to be a very hot item in Maple Grove these days.
All right. Speaking of that area as well, in your ballpark, how about transportation-wise? With the store coming, with this development happening in that area, will we see much change from a transportation standpoint out there?
No, you won't, because we constructed the transportation elements back in 2009 in anticipation of the development of that area.
Right.
Now, were we premature? Yes and no. Nobody anticipated the downturn in the economy the way it was.
Right.
But relative to the funding to make those improvements, not only at that intersection, but all the way from that intersection leading easterly to Vicksburg Lane.
Right.
The stars aligned for the funding, and that was the time to get it done.
Okay.
So
Very good. We'll keep you up to date on that project as it moves ahead. Let's move up a little more north in the city. Park Nicollet.
up into the Grove area, across from Target. So it'd be right on the corner of the intersection with Target and Maple Grove Parkway. There's a site actually taking up 2 of the parcels that have been sitting there vacant for, well, since '05. We'll be using up those 2 parcels for an expansion of a medical facility, 25,000 square feet in size. Going to be a very attractive building. It'll be a nice cornerstone in that particular location.
And when we talk about that area as well, we should talk about Hy-Vee, since we were on it just a second ago. What stage is Hy-Vee at with that spot that's up in that area as well?
Hy-Vee did come in to the city with a proposal across Maple Grove Parkway from Target, and that has stalled a bit. They have a few details to work out with the land ownership.
Okay.
Because I was party to, or part and parcel to, some of the other developments in that area, and they need to work out some details on the use of that site for what Hy-Vee had intended to use it for.
Very good. So still premature in that. Let's talk about the Valley at Arbor Lakes. Tell us a little bit about that project.
The villages.
Villages, correct?
Yes. We've been working on that project for the last 3 or 4 months, working out the details for it to come to the city council related to a number of the funding details. The council heard or reviewed and considered the concept stage plan back last fall.
Okay.
And what will be coming forth for their consideration at their next meeting, presumably, it goes to the Planning Commission this coming Monday night, would be the development stage, and that would be the initial stage of the residential part, the high-density residential apartments, actually.
Which is further up at the north end of that area, is that correct?
At the north.
Okay.
So for those viewers that are familiar with that area, if you just extended Arbor Lakes Parkway to the east from that intersection,
right,
and the project involves the extension of Arbor Lakes Parkway, the residential would be to the north, and then the commercial to the south.
Okay.
And the commercial element involves a creation of a couple lots, and then also the hotel sites. There's a couple hotel sites there. So in all total, it'll be creating 261 apartments in the first phase.
Okay.
There's additional buildings proposed. And then 2 16,000 square foot commercial sites, and then the 2 hotel sites. And each of the hotels are expecting in excess of 100 rooms each.
Okay.
So there's quite a need for additional hotels in Maple Grove, apparently.
We're hearing that, and we're watching some other areas. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's give a little update of some businesses that are existing in town or have just gone away. We're going to talk restaurants in a second, but let's talk about Gander Mountain, that area by the crossings area. What is happening there?
Correct. Gander Mountain left a number of years ago to go out to Rogers because they wanted to get into the black powder business type thing.
Okay.
And so that left a fairly large space open for quite a few years. It's being chewed up a little bit at a time, but now I think the last uses, I think two retail spaces are being created. But you may recall the facade that was there before.
Yes.
It was the mountain,
Oh,
and
yes.
that's being redone now. So that'll kind of dress that back up a bit.
All right.
And it'll
So
be helpful.
A whole look changing there.
And then, as the case with the restaurant business, that's ever evolving. So we've had 3 recent closures. The Mongo's Grill has closed, and there's another restaurant going in that space. Don Pablo's has closed, and their various restaurants have been closing over the last few years. And that space is anticipated to be used for another use. There's talk of a hotel, but not sure on that yet because it's a pretty small lot to put a hotel footprint on there. And then Old Country Buffet closed down fairly unexpectedly in Maple Grove anyway. The restaurant in Maple Grove had been doing fine, but as a business as a whole,
Right.
they've been scaling back or closing entirely. I understand there's 3 that are left open, all in outstate Minnesota, so I don't know if they are in reorganizational bankruptcy or what their plan is.
Okay, very good. All right, so
that's,
there's your business update. We've got a few dates for people to remember as far as things coming up in the near future. One would be Maple Grove Farmers Market, the indoor version. There's going to be one more time for people to head out and do indoor shopping. When is that, Ken?
Correct, and that would be Thursday, April 14th from 3 to 6 in the community center. And they expect about 20 vendors.
Okay.
And then we are moving into spring.
That's
So-
right.
so-
We're going to get outside sooner or
Go-
later here with
get
that type of
outside.
an event. And another event that's always a springtime favorite for people is the Maple Grove Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. What's
Correct.
the detail on that?
The details would be registration is open at this time. Could be on our, you can go onto our website, and that is scheduled. Registration is open through April 21st,
Okay.
and this is the 12th annual event, and that's being held at the Rush Creek Golf Course, and that is on Thursday, May 5th at 7:15.
All right.
So registration includes breakfast.
Very good. Bright and early in the morning, great speaker as well, so make sure you sign up for that event. We're going to get to the council agenda from the recent meeting in just a second here, but Ken, let's talk legislature a little bit. And I know the city of Maple Grove has a few particular items that they're watching and getting some information out on. Number one would be 610. Let's talk about 610 and why it's important that there's maybe something for Maple Grove that happens at the Capitol this year.
That's correct, and most people that just view the project without looking at the details think that 610 is completed.
Right.
And that is not exactly true in that there's still a couple movements that are missing from the Trunk Highway 610 part of it.
Right.
And then part of our overall comprehensive transportation plan comprehends the extension of an access to the west to tie into County Road 30. We call it CASA 610 since we don't have any other name at the moment.
Okay.
But it's similar to like crosstown Trunk Highway 62 down at the south end of the metro.
Right.
It's Trunk Highway to the east, CASA 62 to the west. So
Okay.
we can
Got
click
it.
on
All
that,
right.
that notation. We are working with our legislative representatives, Senator Limmer and Representative Smith and Representative Pepin, to fashion a bill to provide funding. And it's a bit complex in that based on bonding bills, Trunk Highway bonds must be spent on Trunk Highway right-of-way. General obligation bonds cannot be spent on Trunk Highway, but they can
Okay.
be on locals. So we're doing a mix and match type of thing. So that there will be a bill heard next week, sometime either Tuesday or Thursday. We're looking at right now, and it would be wonderful if we got the funding for that.
Does this stand alone as itself in its own bill, or is this something that is being piggybacked together with other transportation needs, possibly in the metro area?
These are actually going to be standalone bills,
Okay.
at least from the standpoint of what's being presented next week.
Right.
But it's, when I say standalone bills, there's been some standalone bills written, but they're also folded into the general obligation bonding bill. That's capital investments. So the hearing next week is before the Capital Investments Committee.
Okay.
The Trunk Highway part would most likely either be part of a transportation bonding bill or part of the overall transportation bill, which is highly controversial at the state right now, being debated on both sides with a number of different approaches to that, whether it's gas tax or use of reserves or transfer sales tax from
Right.
motor vehicle type uses such as repair shops and car rentals and that type of thing.
Okay.
No one has a clue as to how that'll come out yet, even those
Sure.
that are working on it.
Okay.
And then one other bill that we have before the legislature would just clean up some language as it relates to our funding mechanisms within the gravel mining area. That bill was passed back in 2014.
Right.
And there was some language within the bill that doesn't really work well for the city, mostly from the standpoint of a legal description of the area. So it's just cleaning that up a bit.
Very good. So a couple things, again, that we'll be following here through the Maple Grove Report, and you might hear through the city's website as well as on Channel 12. All right, let's get to the council meeting, the second meeting in the month of March. Again, ran through pretty quickly. We have some of the items off the consent agenda to touch on. What were some of the items that they took care of there?
A few of the more major items is that council authorized the recruitment to fill an economic development director position. They decided that it's an important enough job that it had to be separated away from the city administrator position. You may recall over the last, I'm thinking 15 years now that it's been combined. And then normal evolution, another retirement. Our city clerk, Stevie Cole Anderson, is retiring as of June 30th. That's an important position because of election year.
Exactly. How long has she been with the city?
29 years.
Fantastic. So we will miss her as well, and I'm sure a lot of people tied in with the election will miss her as well. So those start on a pretty quick timeline here as far as looking to fill those positions?
Correct. They're advertising already.
All right, very good.
And then from a development standpoint, I guess a small preschool over by Central Park in one of the lots that were part of that the Sky housing development, a couple outlets.
Okay.
We had an appointment to the Arbor Committee. Dan Sanford was appointed by the council to serve in that capacity. And then the council also approved our plans and authorized bids for our street reconstruction program. And I was thinking of talking about that during transportation updates, but in this particular case, it's our street rehabilitation program. Involves a fairly large area this year. That area that is north of 89th and south of County Road 30, and then sandwiched between Elm Creek Boulevard and Forest View Lane, which is over by the Public Works area.
Right.
Our typical street reconstruction area, fixing up and replacing curb and gutter, new bituminous surface. We are going to be adding a sidewalk along Forest View Lane. A number of residents have asked us to look at that, and that's actually one of our collector streets, but it's also a transit route.
Okay.
So there's quite a few people that walk along that area, and of course, being a commercial street, it has much more traffic and industrial type traffic, all the public works vehicles and Caterpillars along there as well.
Right.
So that will be a good project for the year.
And what is the time frame on that? When will we start to see some earth being moved, and when would it be buttoned up?
We haven't developed fully the phasing part of that.
Okay.
We've completed the plans, but now is put together the phasing so that we can send it out for contracts. And what we're actually doing is breaking the area up into two separate contracts.
Okay.
Two different bid lettings. Potentially two different contractors, potentially one, but if it's one, our specifications will require two separate operations to be working in that neighborhood.
And my guess, knowing that area, probably a little discussion going on with the Maple Grove Community Organization people, because part of that area is close to where the parade happens, right?
Yes,
so
close.
Probably some discussions there.
Yes.
All right, we'll get that figured out, and we'll tell you where to park and best ways to get to the parade when we get closer to that.
A little time yet on that. And then also in the public forum part, Hennepin County Commissioner Jeff Johnson made a presentation to the council. He pops in about once a year, kind of gives an update, usually after the budget process for the county, and then he kind of goes over what the budget consists of and what is either new or changes, that type of thing.
Anything related to the county presentation and transportation, some things that you have to deal with in your day-to-day work?
At this particular point, we really do not have anything going on actively with the county.
Okay.
So there really were no updates on transportation.
Okay, in the future, in the next few years, anything on the county level from a transportation standpoint that residents might need to be aware of?
I spoke of that CASA 610 extension. That would be the only one that we're really, because we've we've built a lot of the county roads now in Maple Grove, and they're pretty much wrapped up.
Okay, very good. Continuing on with the council, other items?
A month ago, council considered a development up on the very north end of the city called the Enclave at Rush Creek. An element of that project was to install a water main down Territorial Road and then improve the surface of Territorial Road in an interim type basis until which time that area develops.
Okay.
A number of issues were brought out to the council or brought forth for the council consideration from the residents. A month ago, the council tabled the project for us to bring some more information back. And there was, I think, 3 folks that were at the meeting this past Monday providing testimony to the council, for the most part saying, yes, it's time to do this. So council did order that project, so we can fold those 2 projects together and package them to get, or package those elements to get them out for bids. And, and presumably this summer we would be working on that as well. And then we talked about the markets at Rush Creek. Council approved that development stage plan, and that was the extent of it. The quick Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting, and they adjourned about an hour and 20 minutes after.
Okay, very good. So a quick and efficient council meeting. We've got a few minutes left here with Ken, and as we always do, we try to get a little transportation update, and let's hop out to one of the main interstates in the area, and a lot of work going to be happening this year, kind of the next phase of the process on 494. Give us a little idea of what we can expect this summer.
Work will be starting out there very soon, first part of April, and the project this year will focus on the northbound lanes. Last year, they reconstructed the southbound lanes, and if you have your memory goes back that far, the last year we had this movable barrier in the middle.
Exactly.
And it provided for 2 lanes in one direction during rush hour, in the peak direction, 1 lane the other. Now, since the southbound lanes were reconstructed, to add that 3rd lane now there's enough space. Well, there's 3 lanes. There's a shoulder to steal some space from. They can operate 2 lanes in each direction continuously. Great. Involved with that project, and hopefully the project will be completed by the end of the construction season. It should better be. There will be some closures that will occur that affects the movement of local traffic. So say, for example, there'll be some closures of County Road 47 again. There'll be some closures of Schmidt Lake Road, which is in Plymouth. Those 2 not occurring simultaneously. There will be a closure of the East Fish Lake Road bridge over 494 to allow for redecking of that bridge. They're not going to tear it down, but they're going to redeck it.
Okay.
And that's for roughly for 50 consecutive days. And the attempt is going to be when school is not going on. Okay. Because there's movement back and forth to Oakview and Cedar Island School from those service areas. Okay. And that's one of the projects we had been waiting for a long time, and hopefully by the end of the year that'll be completed.
All right, everyone will be smiling when it's all done full ways in both ways. Other items, what are some other transportation projects for the summer?
Clearly Trunk Highway 610, and that's been the project that the city has been most involved with over the last 3 or 4 years, putting all those elements together, because that project involves a lot of local improvements. And at this particular time, many of those are close to completion. By early summer, we should have the 105th Avenue connection from what is the 105th Avenue corridor, but over to Maple Grove Parkway, across the freeway on the new bridge, connected down to 101st Avenue. Okay. So the 101st Avenue Bridge over 94 has been closed all summer to allow for some abutment work on the new bridges that would fly over 94, providing for that eastbound 94 to eastbound 610 movement. Right. A couple of the items that have been worked on over the winter is the tunnel over by County Road 81 and the railroad tracks. That design involved a tunnel as opposed to a bridge. You don't need to have a mountain to build a tunnel.
That's true.
They're also building the bridge over Elm Creek at this time, and working on the Fernbrook Lane Bridge. Beginning in early April, I think it's April 5th that they will start, April 4th or 5th, working on the Maple Grove Parkway interchange with 610.
Okay.
That will involve a closure of Maple
Right.
Grove Parkway in the immediate vicinity of the interchange. But if you're coming from the south, you can access the Grove area up as far as Target.
Okay.
And if you're approaching the Yardway site, you'd come from the north. And there'll
Okay.
be adequate signage, detours set up for all of that.
Okay, so yeah, that is one of the points we've talked about a time or two, is that for people using that site, little different entrance this year, so make sure you make note of that as you head up and use that area. So again, as far as Maple Grove Parkway, just that one smaller section will be closed down.
Correct.
When will we see potential people driving all the way across the new 610 and be able to use that? Do we have a date set? Do we have ribbons to be cut?
Not a date, but we're expecting ribbons to be cut this fall.
Okay,
That's the intent.
fantastic. So
That's the intent.
So exciting times for people that have been looking at that project for some time, but then potentially still some work to be done.
Oh, yes.
Other projects, any other items around town?
Projects that would involve, that would impact Maple Grove residents, but it's a project in Plymouth, would be the Vicksburg Lane project.
Right.
The south part of Vicksburg Lane was completed last year, which allowed traffic heading south to at least get to Schmidt Lake Road. This year would be the second phase of that project from Schmidt Lake Road up to County Road 47, and that involves a new bridge over the
Sioux Line
notorious track crossing.
Yes, yes,
So-
we all know that one.
So that'll be a great improvement, and that should be completed by the end of the year as well.
But for Maple Grove residents that use that as a way to get to the south, you're going to have to think of some other ways, because
Correct.
that will be closed for some time. Okay,
Correct.
very good.
And then just a smaller water main project down on Sycamore Lane in the just north of Bass Lake Road. We've got some improvements to make on that.
Okay.
You may have read the story Sunday about the lost water that Star and Tribune carried. At one of those types of things where you have to maintain leakage of,
Sure.
of your water main system.
Okay, very good. All right, so there's your transportation update, just a few things happening. How about from a public works standpoint, quickly here, are all the plows off of the trucks?
No, they're not. Just
Rats.
if you've been watching the news,
Yeah,
there's a
as we're
storm.
taping this, they're talking about snow, but
I
when
don't-
does that normally happen?
Well, the plows come on and off the trucks very easy. We just don't take the wings
Right.
wings off. But so normally by the end of March, we're thinking we're about done.
Okay.
I think we're going to miss this particular storm. We've been already at the street sweeping operations for
Yep.
spring.
Right, I've seen some.
So, we've been working on tree trimming and stormwater pond clean-outs all winter, and pretty soon we'll be into that summertime task.
Well, let's go for it. All right. Ken, thank you very much
You're
again for
welcome.
coming in and for all the information. Let's leave you with the next council meeting date and a few other bits of information. The next council meeting is Monday, April 4th, 7:30 at the Government Center. You see the website in the middle of the screen. Again, a lot of the information that Ken talked about, whether it be related to the Maple Grove Mayor's Prayer Breakfast or also the upcoming indoor and then outdoor farmers markets, you can find on the website. 494-6000 is the phone number. And our viewer response line, 533-1710. Questions or comments about the program, we can certainly answer those. For Ken Ashfeld, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks for joining us on the Maple Grove City Report.